Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge USA 2 episode 12. That's right, Kahuna. It's my favorite time of the week and my favorite podcast of the week as well. I get to talk about the Challenge. How you doing, Kahuna?
Doing very good, thank you, sir. I'm in the same boat. Every week, it's always exciting and fresh, and I'm looking forward to chat about the Challenge USA 2 because it's a hell of a season, and we're seeing it very clearly stamping itself as a premier season of a show that we've come to love over the years. So I'm happy.
Yeah, it's so strange that I've been saying it for a while. It seems like every season that we've been watching, we come on here and we're like, this season is phenomenal. I mean, now when we look back at USA 1, we can all agree USA 1 wasn't really a great season because USA 2 is blowing it out of the water. World Championship was amazing. And the craziest thing of all, Kahuna, is that you and I have actually never covered the flagship show together. We've never done that. We started on the Challenge Australia, and there has not been a normal season since then.
It's weird to think because I'm like, surely we've covered something. There's been so much in the last 12 months, but look, it says a lot of what the Challenge is trying to do when they're presenting this many shows where podcasters that cover it, and I get confused about, did we cover something with the flagship? Or it's showing how much content they're putting out, that it's good for people like us.
Yeah, no, definitely is. Let's say hello to people here in the live. We've got Pete saying, no one tell my boss I'm listening to this while working. I won't tell him at all. I won't say a word. Fairy Tiger says, nobody tell my employees that I'm not bossing them around at the moment and listening to the podcast. Hopefully you guys don't work in the same company. Danica saying, okay, something must be off. Not only am I not driving, but I'm actually at my computer ready to go. Hello, everyone. Willie Lloyd, welcome. Danica, welcome. Fairy Tiger, welcome. We've got Georgette in the house. Georgette, one of the OGs. She's been with me since day one on the podcast. Great to have you back. Pete saying, I'm working the Michigan versus Minnesota game that is on NBC tonight in 30 minutes. Wow. So you're in the entertainment business as well. It all went over my head. I know Kahuna follows American sports a little bit better than me. Enlighten me, Kahuna.
I'm pretty sure that's an NFL college football game.
There you go.
Michigan? Yeah, Michigan versus Minnesota.
Danica saying, wasn't Ride or Dies a regular season? Ride or Dies was a regular season, but we didn't cover it on the channel. I didn't cover the Challenge 38. At that point, I went on to cover the Challenge Australia, and that's when Kahuna joined the podcast. My time zones didn't work out with Drew and Chantel during that time. Which is getting a little bit harder again now that I'm full-time employed again, which is, I'm so happy I've got Kahuna here that can sort of move things around with me. And I didn't cover the Challenge 38 on the channel at all, which was the only season I sort of missed in recent times. But what an episode. We start off here early on with Chris just defeating, I guess, Tyler. He gets back into the house. He's one step closer to that $250,000. Very happy about that. And we do see in the early stages here, Desi going out of her way to comfort Chris and to say, hey, I get what it feels like to be on the outside. I've got your back. And it seemed like this was such a timely move by Desi. And finally, we're starting to get a little bit more content from Desi because she kind of disappeared for a couple of episodes. For at least the last 2-3 episodes, I didn't really know what she was thinking or what she was doing.
Yeah, we at one point during the season, we both said, like, is this a winner's edit? To the extent that the Challenge does winner's edit for Desi. She was on a real streak there and then kind of just disappeared for a little bit. But this is the sort of thing that makes me think that the earlier version was something, because reaching out to Chris, who's going through like it's smart, but it's also showing. It's smart because he's just come back for the fourth time, right? This guy doesn't go away. He's like a cockroach. So it's smart to get in the good graces of someone who might potentially have power, who's not going anywhere. And now the men seem to be afraid of. But it's also just a nice thing as a human being, right? When you're seeing someone that's struggling or going through something, to reach out, and whether that earns you, whether the calculation was that there's going to be a payoff after this, there's brownie points that I'm earning or whatever, or it's just another person that I'm sort of connecting with, then there's no downside to what she did. You know what I mean? So it's a smart move from Desi, but hopefully it was also just a good person move, you know?
I do think that it was a good person move because we have the very important scene here in the opening minutes of the episode where we get the ladies all sort of coming together. Desi is really annoyed because Michelle changed her vote. Michelle is in the room with Desi and Chanel. They're having a conversation, and Desi saying, you kind of blew up our game here because we had a good thing going with Tori. Now we're exposed, and she knows that we voted against her while you did what you needed to do. And Michelle says, listen, I had to think about my long-term game. You know, Tori's not someone you want to piss off. I did what was right for me. I definitely played the middle. I'm owning up to that. But Desi comes away from this, and we'll talk about it from a Desi perspective first, but Desi seems to be a good person. Like, she's like, I feel bad that I did Tori dirty like this, which kind of explains why Desi probably wasn't the most cutthroat Survivor player. And I feel like Desi will never be the most cutthroat challenge player either, because it does feel to me like she's taking this like real life. She's not looking at this as a game. She feels like she did Tori dirty on a personal level.
Yeah, I appreciate that about someone. Like, I have both perspectives because we both come towards a game like this and say it's a game. You keep personal feelings or life aside. You play the game how you need to play it. And there should be no hard feelings. You should all come out at the end of the game and go, you know, good game. You got me. Right. But there's an element of, you know, if she's living this in this house and doesn't want to separate my own personal convictions and the way I treat people from the way I treat people in the game, then good for her. And the good thing about a game like the challenge is that you can back it up with physical, you know, with eliminations. Even if you're not doing the cutthroat thing, you can either slide by and go pretty far because you're not ruffling any feathers, or if people see it as trying to fly under the radar, then you've still got a chance to always come back. It's not just about that vote, but being nice to people, helping people, I don't think is a negative as far as, you know, getting votes against you. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree with you. Pete here says, you guys are doing an amazing job. Don't worry about missing anything. Thanks, Pete. We really appreciate it when you put those nice comments out there for us. Definitely makes it worth getting up early in the mornings to do these challenge lives. And he also says, you find allies in adversity, and Desi was smart to gather more forces, which is very true. Talking to Chris at that moment. Danica says, I think Chris has proved himself as a challenger, but he does need to work on his social game. I think both myself and Kahuna agree on that. Pete says Tori was smart to confront the room, but the people put the people back on their heels, and that's true. I did want to talk about Michelle a little bit first here before we talk about Tori coming into the room. Did you like Michelle owning up to her move and confronting them head on in this moment? I don't think she had anywhere to hide, but Michelle does have a messy game, and she talks about that quite a lot in this episode, and we'll probably have other points where we'll bring it back up again. But you've got to respect the fact that at least she went in there facing the thunder from both Chanel and Desi directly here.
Yeah, like the starting stages of the Michelle down that we get coined later on. But the one with Tori, like I get with Desi and Chanel, absolutely. Like, there's no real way around it. She did sort of weave a tale of lies that Chanel was able to call her on and stuff. But I don't know if she should have owned it a bit more, or you got to own your decisions in the challenge. Like Bananas always said, I stab people in the front rather than the back. Whether it's true or not, you got to be able to own it, because the consequences can always come back to you. They're sitting in front of you now. Like, what you've done is right in front of you in the same room, as opposed to on Survivor, where your votes will often, you know, if you're on the right side of the votes, will often go home rather than giving the chance to come back. But when Tori came in, I don't know why Michelle even like needed to pipe in. Like, Tori was going at Desi and Chanel, And
I
Michelle
got
comes
it.
in with like,
I got
yeah,
it. I got it. I got why she
you
did
got
it.
it?
Because, yeah, 100%. She was using that social game, which she is known for. But I think that it's probably a bit obvious for Desi and Chanel at that point. But what she was trying to do was minimize the blowback from Tori to Chanel and Desi, so Chanel and Desi would feel less bad about the fact that she was or they were duped by Michelle. So her comments were, I'm also half to blame for this because I made them believe that I was going to vote for you, which I didn't do. So that gave them the green light to go ahead. So she was trying to sort of cushion the blow from Tori towards both of those ladies to garner good favor with both of them, which it's a Hail Mary attempt, but I mean, it's not like there was no strategy behind it. There was definitely strategy behind it, is what I'm trying to say. I understand why she tried it. If it was effective, clearly we see by the end of the episode it wasn't that effective, and it was a little bit late for her to try and do that. Yeah,
I think at that point, like she's been playing both sides and doing a really good balance, to be honest with you, up until this point. But when she said to Desi and Chanel, "I will vote for Tori," and then did not vote for Tori, she's made her bed. She's chosen the side. And when you say you need to eventually pick a side, she did that with her actions, but then is trying to walk it back with Desi and Chanel. But it's too late. They're already sitting in front of you, confronting you about how betrayed they are and what you've done. That little tiny cushion doesn't really do much except show that you're still not 100% committed to the Tory decision that you've made with Tory right in front of you, you know? So I don't know.
yeah.
Like maybe there was
Tory,
strategy. I don't know if it's the right one.
yeah, Tori seemed okay. She said, "Listen, Michelle obviously was considering coming after me, but she didn't actually place the vote against me, which counts for something." So I don't think Tori was going to go after them. I think Tori, like she said to us at home in the confessional booth, said, "I'm going to go and take my revenge on these girls who voted against me, the ones who took a direct shot at me, not the one that thought about it but
That's what I
didn't
mean.
do it." Yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah.
already
So
had a shield in front of her with Desi and Chanel actually doing the votes. Michelle didn't really need to throw herself on that grenade when the grenade wasn't, coming for her at
yeah, I
all.
don't think she did. I don't think she did. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think Tori was going to go for her regardless at that point. Tori's one of those people. Eye for an eye. If someone takes a shot at her, she's going to take that shot back at Desi and Chanel, most likely, or Michaela in this scenario. But Danica here says, "I wonder if Michelle ever watches her game and sees what she can do to make her gameplay better. She's just unintentionally unstable." And we get her complaining about it later on in the episode again as well. Like, "Oh, no one ever respected me as a survivor winner. It still bothers her. People thought my game was sloppy." And I don't think she's done anything. Like, again, if Michelle ever listens to this, which she won't, she probably doesn't watch her own games. I don't have anything against Michelle. In fact, I actually think Michelle would be one of the people I'd love to hang out with. I think she would be a blast to go out. If you go to the clubs, you have a good night out, she'll be a lot of fun to hang out with. I mean, even her and Cassidy making out, her just being like, "Oh, okay, I'll just go with it." She seems like someone that's actually quite easygoing and fun to hang out with. But being a great person in life, a fun person to go out and have party with at the clubs and things like that, or just enjoy life with, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate in you being a great game player. I think her coming back, playing the challenge, has only solidified the opinion of people who watch Survivor. There was this false belief out there when she made it to the end again and Winners at War that she was this great game player because she got to the end twice. I now believe she was a bit lucky. She got dragged. She never had power in that season in any case. People didn't see her as a threat, and they kept her until the end because they knew they could beat her there. So I think that this game, and it sounds so brutal. Like, it sounds so brutal. I'm not a hater of Michelle. I like Michelle, but I don't think she's a great game player. And I think that the challenge is proving it over and over again when she's coming here and she's playing an unstable game. And it just seems to be like, she's like, "I know I'm a mess," because I feel like she's a mess just outside of this as well. That's just who she is. And she owns into it. But then she wants people not to see her as a mess when she played the game. Like, 1 + 1 = 2, not 3. Like, it's, if you're going to be a mess, you're going to be a mess. Just own it.
Well, this is why that people see her that way, is because she makes these wishy-washy, doesn't commit to it, will try to play both sides and then not own the decision that she does make and try to backtrack this. And it's not a great look when people are trying to gauge where they stand with you and it's impossible to find out.
Yeah. Michelle's problem is that she could have told Chris, the girls from Survivor, that she wasn't voting for Chris. or that she wasn't voting for Chris, that she was voting for, so she did vote for Chris, I guess, at the end, but she didn't. So she didn't keep them informed throughout it because she wanted the target to be on them. That's the only reason you don't tell them that you're going to be voting, not the way that they're voting, because you want them to take the heat for voting against Tori instead of you. Pete says, Danica, that would help so much. Lena says, I'm just logging in, but didn't Michelle encourage the girls to vote for Tori? She initiated that conversation. I can't remember who initiated the conversation, but she was very much a part of it.
That was the accusation Chanel was saying anyway, is that she
Right.
was the one driving the Tory decision. Then we have to live with the vote that she didn't even follow through with. So,
yeah. Lena says Desi and Chanel was going to vote for Tyler, not Tori. That's true. Peterman? Is that bananas? In the house, is bananas in here in the chat, Peter Pan. Anyways, saying people call her the least deserving Survivor winner on a season with Chris Underwood is really funny. That is true because most people have Chris Underwood ranked at the bottom of that. And yeah, I think Chris Underwood's doing he's reconfirming that his social game is not the greatest, I think, this season. But he's again reconfirming that he's a beast in challenges, which he was even in Survivor. So and that's in the challenge, that's like 80% of what you need. You just need to be great at challenges, right? If you can be super good at challenges and people are afraid to throw you in eliminations, and he's already, I mean, it was hilarious this episode. And we can talk about it when Josh and the rest of the vets all came together and they're like, oh wow, look at us. We've made it here. We're, can you believe us vets have outsmarted all the rookies this season? It's Josh, Fessy, Corey, Bananas, all that experience there together, and they're all petrified of going against Chris, the newbie, because he's just won 4 eliminations in a row. So that elimination fear, it's already becoming a thing behind Chris now. It's really, he's got some momentum right now.
and that bit especially where Josh is like, "We're here, we're top 5. I've never been this far," and Corey's like, "Yeah, you go." And Bananas is like, "What? Can you not count like that the final 5?" But then Josh makes the brilliant strategic decision to be like, "We're here, we're fine. We just need him to go in, and then one of us can take him out." And they all Bananas are like, "Who's gonna take him out? Do you want to like? What are you saying? You want to go in and take him out?" Like, there's big intimidation factor at the moment, and they've gotten to the point where if they don't want Chris to get to that final, then someone has to go in against him. And like, who's gonna put their hand up? No one wants to take on that.
Well,
beast,
by the end of this episode, someone does put their hand up, and we'll talk about that. It's going to be pretty dumb for that person to do so, but and we'll definitely talk about it. Obviously, we see in this moment here as well. Actually, no, it probably happens a little bit later on, so I'll hold off on that for later. But let's look at a couple of the lives here, the live questions coming in. Danica says, do you think Michelle is a layup? I think that there isn't many. I don't think there's many chances for Michelle to win. I don't think, should I be that bold and say Michelle can never win the challenge? Unless they take Tori out of the game, they take any of the other strong women out of the game, and they put some bigger layups in there with her. But I mean, she goes up against the girl in this episode that people thought was, or they've been thinking this whole season she's a layup, and she's been proving people wrong the whole season. So I don't know if Michelle can win this game. I feel like she must be a layup at this stage. Georgette says, I agree, Chris, about Michelle. I'm glad we're on the same boat. I love Michelle, but yeah, it's just not happening. Willie is saying the least deserving Survivor winner is Ben. I don't agree with you, Willie, but it's take your shots, make your calls. Don't let me tell you how to live your life. I'm okay. There's a lot of people who don't like Ben. I'm not in that camp. I don't dislike him, and I don't blame him for the fire making challenge either. Personally, that's just my take on that. You had a big reaction there, Kuna.
Yeah, I think Ben was a great win. I mean, I like Ben. He's a crossover champion now to the challenge. You know what I mean? So yeah, I always appreciate Ben's game, even though it's a little bit messy, but it's fun.
Is he the best winner to ever play Survivor? No. Is he the worst? No. He's definitely not the worst, I don't think. But we did our rankings not that long ago, and I think a lot of the YouTube content creators did rank him in the bottom 10 winners, which I still thought was too low as well. I'm high on Ben. I put Ben around the middle of the pack for me personally. And there's a lot of winners, so there's a lot of people that I would put above him. Pete says, is Josh trying to ruin his run at a final? Who got in his head that he has to earn any more than he has? I agree, Pete. We're going to talk about that. It's just weird. So unnecessary. Willie says, I don't think Michelle is a layup. She must, and she proven to be a beast in Ride or Dies. Listen, I think that if she's in, you're right, Willie, it's good for you to bring that up, because I think if she's in the right duo, like she was with Jay, they were maybe like a little bit sporadic in regards to their strategy, because they're both very sporadic players. But I think if Michelle had like a CT attached to her, or like someone that just brings more experience, maybe can ground her a little bit more in her decision making, and does really good, she could probably do really well. I don't know how she would do in a final in the running. That's my big question mark for Michelle, because I always see Michelle on holidays with cocktails in her hand, having a good time. I never see her putting gym selfies up on Instagram. So I don't know if she trains, Kahuna, in between seasons.
Yeah, she might be just one of those players that, like, that's an interesting point you raise. That with the right partner, they could unlock something. But when Michelle seems to be the driving force, especially in the individual portion of a season, I think she probably falls more towards the layup side.
Yeah, I think so as well.
As opposed to
Lena,
she might be a good complementary piece, but she's not your star player.
Sorry, I interrupted you. We lost you there for a second. You said something about Michelle being a good complementary player, but not a star player.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just think she might be better in a team as opposed to individual game, where she has to be the one that pulls out of her a strong performance, and she doesn't seem to have either the confidence or whatever it is to think that she can do that, even though she always says to the camera that, you know, she's going against all these issues and she's fighting and stuff. I don't necessarily know it translates to the arena or dailies or the physical challenges. That's not where she strives best to fight. You know what I mean? It seems to be fighting the social game and staying in the game despite some of the messiness, but it doesn't translate to the physical.
Yep. No, I'm in agreement with you. Lena says, where is the ranking video? I don't recall seeing it. It's on Russell Muscle TV's channel. So there were 4 podcasts that were broken into, I think, about 10 winners at a time, roughly, maybe even 11 or 12 winners at a time. Myself and Jake from the Nullified Take featured in the last one, which was winners 11 through to number 1. But there were different guests on at different times, and we all voted together to come up with a ranking video for the best winners of all time. And it's not just my opinion. It's a bunch of YouTubers together who did that. So if you want to go check it out, go check it out. It is really good. Wool Ninehouse, hello. Welcome to the live. Danica says the boys have CT syndrome. They didn't get Chris out. Now they have a problem. Atypical CT moved to not get out and makes a final. Pete says, I bet any of us could win with CT as a partner. That's true. He put us on the back. He's like Oprah. He's like, you get a win, you get a win, you get a win. Everybody gets a win when CT's on the season. Danica's, I think Michelle has the ability to win, but she's her own worst enemy. That's true. No problems, Lena. So we head into the daily challenge, and it is in the middle of a field in Croatia, beautiful location, and they have to go into a very old ford. It kind of reminded me a little bit of when they were in South Africa and they had that castle and they had to get down into the castle in the World Championship season. They have to run into this ford, really big ford. I thought it was cool that TJ said you have to go and get these puzzle pieces, stack them up together, but I'm not going to let you know how many pieces there are out there. And for me personally, I love Michaela's strategy. I love the strategy of spending a little bit more time at the beginning to run deeper into the ford so you could identify all the different areas in there and know kind of estimate how many potential bags of puzzle pieces are in there before you run out. Overall, this could easily be seen as like a mini final or a leg in a final, because the distance that they had to run with those puzzle pieces from the ford back out to where TJ was to go and build these puzzles, I think it was definitely not an easy challenge to do, and there's a lot of fit people that were struggling out there.
Yeah, it looks tough, man, and Michaela just running this game at the moment, showing the smarts, showing the physical, showing everything, the complete package at the moment. And to pull it over on someone like Bananas, it was specifically Bananas that she said, "No, there's only 7."
Quick question for you. quick question for you on Michaela. Could Michaela become the face of the challenge? Could she be the new age face if she comes back, has another 1 or 2 seasons like this? Do you think the potential is there? Because I feel like, who's next? Who's after Tori? Cam's really not there. She's at the moment, Leroy's, being very selfish and looking after home first and getting her to pop out all these babies. So, do you reckon she could become like a really big character? Because she's, like you said, she's been delivering this season.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see why not. She's got everything they need to be that. The only thing I think is if her personality is a little bit too
Blunt,
scratchy, a little bit too blunt, to be the face, if you know what I mean. Although Bananas for the longest time was kind of the anti-hero, like he was seen as a villain but still pushed as the main guy. But that's because production love him. I don't know what her relationships are like behind cameras as well, you know what I mean? Like Bananas, despite whatever we see on camera, that he was really getting along well with production, was contributing, has that producer's eye. Does Michaela make the whole process an easier thing for them? Is she part of the, helping smooth the process to curry that favor? I don't know, because I think Tori does. Tori seems to be doing whatever they want, whenever they want. She's hand up for every show. She's good on social media. She does the official podcast for them, and she's kind of like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. She's the team player for Bun and Murray, which I'm not sure Michaela will be. Yeah,
it's so funny you mentioned that, because in life, for people who are out there working in the workforce, in school, people look down on the brown nose and they're like, oh, this kid's a brown nose, just wants to be like the teacher's pet. It does work. Like if you go into a corporate environment and you're working in a company, who's the manager or the team leader going to look at to promote in the future or give opportunity to? The person who's going to make their work less hard. Like the person that's coming to them and saying, hey, well, I know you've got a lot of stuff coming your way. How can I make your day easier? And it's exactly what you're saying. Like Bananas, even in this episode, when they're running into the Ford, the confessional is on point when he's like, I've done this game for so long. Because of that, I can compartmentalize exactly what the fort looks like in my mind. You've got the section that looks like this. You've got a section that looks like that. And as he's doing it, the producers are loving it. They're putting a nice little map of the fort out there as he's perfectly explaining the different areas they're showing it. So he's helping them make the show easier. And this is, I think, what people don't get sometimes. The same with Tori in the previous episode when she was talking about the scorpion clamp, it brings flavor to the show, and not everybody has got that skill set when it comes to making the show entertaining and actually acting as a narrator for what we're seeing play out on the screen. So I agree with you. I think Michaela probably has a little bit of work still to do there, but loving the fact that she's got the scrappiness, she's got the strategy, and she's not afraid to make moves. Like I want people who are not afraid to make moves. Her not telling Bananas about the 8th bag and just being like, no, there's only 7. That was cold. And that was, a lot of people would be scared to do that to someone like Bananas, who is such a decorated vet in the game.
Yeah, and the fact that, again, it was specifically Bananas, it wasn't a Josh, it wasn't a Corey, it was someone who we just saw the edit of them saying, I know this, I know what I'm doing, I've got this down. And for her to pull the wool over his eyes says a lot about what she can do. So yeah, I love that. It was such a fun thing. And you know what it also pointed out to me was how much these challenges, the challenge and the challengers, rely on their friendships. Like we talk about the vacation lines, we talk about that, but like Bananas thought it was 7, and then all of a sudden everybody just assumed it was 7, right? And then we see Michaela figure out it was 8. Desi, all of a sudden, she knew it was 8, and she told Chris, who, like you can see the relationships play out where they're not even trying. Banana said it was 7, then we're just going to go with what Banana said. No one's even checking, no one's double checking, they just listen and go with it, and it shows what the relationships and networking really does in a show like this.
Oh, it's absolutely massive, and it is a part of the game. It has been a part of the game for a long time. Sudani, welcome to the live. You made it on time. Sudani says, I hope you both had a lovely week, Chris and Kahuna. I had a great week. My first week at a new job went pretty well. Pretty tired this week. There's a lot to learn, but it's been fun. And I've been lucky enough to do 2 podcasts so far this weekend with you, Kahuna, as well. We did Survivor yesterday, but yeah. Thanks, Sudani. We appreciate that. Pete says, I think someone should win before becoming the face of the challenge. That is true. Fair call. Danica says the new female faces of the challenge, Olivia and Michaela. All right. Hopefully they don't both win. You're not spoiled, Danica. I don't want to know any spoilers of who's winning the next 2 seasons, but Olivia definitely pretty badass last season as well on the main show. Lena says some are calling Michaela Little Laurel. Oh. Can you see that, Kuno?
I don't know if little's a good term, but she's
quite tall.
certainly not. She has the physical capabilities of Laurel. She seems to have the competitive fierceness of Laurel, but she's not getting into the mess in the house that Laurel is capable of getting into, either with men or with other women fighting, and also the opposite of fighting. But like, she doesn't seem to go for the drama side as much as Laurel made that part of her game. But she's got all the competitiveness, all the strength, all the fierceness that Laurel that made Laurel such a feared competitor.
Tori has been the female face before she won, and I hated that. Michaela should be the new face of the challenge because she's proven to provide entertainment. She's a good competitor, and I want her to be on more seasons. I agree, Willie. Naruse should also be the new face. She dripped gold.
Her face doesn't drip gold, though. Something else drips gold, and I don't think you can make that the face of anything.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Danica says that's fair. Palavigal, welcome back to the live. Great to have you here. Lena says Wes said Michaela by far is the whole package. He said she is good TV, a great competitor, and a great strategist. And if you're endorsed by Wes, then doesn't get much better than that. Danica says, sorry, not a spoiler at all. I just like both of them, and they are beasts. Yeah. Danica also says Michaela is driven, not distracted like so many of the other girls are. Laurel would womp Michaela in all but puzzles or tree climbing. Yeah. Well, the tree climbing, I guess, when she went up against who was it?
Ninja Natalie.
Ninja Natalie. Yeah, that was just her not paying attention to detail there, and also coming into that season a bit cold, not having played in a while. I think that does count against you when Ninja Natalie had a couple of seasons. I'm surprised we haven't seen Ninja Natalie back yet, to be honest. She was a pretty fierce competitor as well.
Yeah, I think it was everything outside of competing that didn't win her any favors. She's a boring character. She kind of I don't think she added too much to it. She's obviously very good physically, but she didn't win any fans with the fans or with producers, I think.
She was also in the wrong side of the house at that time, where a lot of people didn't like the alliance she was a part of, so that didn't help. But coming back to this daily here, very interesting strategy by Chris, trying to put some of the puzzle pieces together before having all of them, trying to work out how to put it together. I thought it wasn't the greatest strategy between you and me, Kuna, because if the puzzle was, if there was a little bit more nuance to it, then people could use his puzzle to figure out their puzzle as well before they even opened the puzzle pieces. So him doing that at 5 when other people were still running and getting more of their puzzle pieces, I felt like it was not a great strategy to start before you confirmed everything was there. But it came down to apparently like centimeters between or inches for those that are over in the US, between them, like to be able to see how the puzzle pieces fitted in together, all kind of looked very similar, and it looked like it was quite a small difference because quite a few people almost got it. But at the end, Chris and Desi, they do win this challenge outright. The survivors work together, and it's a full-on survivor power day. We haven't seen the vets out of power for quite a while. Were you excited to see sort of the pressure being put on some of these vets that have been they've been really dominating the game? They got control of it.
Especially at a stage of the game where there's no fluff anymore. There's no one else they can't put forward a Tyler or like an Alyssa. There's no big brother people to throw. I think that the decisions now have to be made. That is going to be when you're at this tail end, one of them is going to be impacted or potentially impacted, and there's no sacrificial lambs anymore. You've now just got the good stuff that you need to make some hard decisions, which is always a fun time, regardless of who's in power. But the fact that it's the veterans with their back against the wall, Chris, who's just come back from 4 eliminations, finally getting some power, and Desi, who we've loved the entire season. Why wouldn't I like having these two with a chance here to actually make some moves?
And they get back to the house here. Michaela has this conversation with Bananas and says, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you make it a girls' day? And Bananas is like, that's what we're going to do in any case. Thanks for recommending it. But it's kind of weird because I feel like almost the right move at this stage. Were the girls thinking like vengeance, we need to get Michelle out of this game right now a little bit too much maybe, because they had the perfect opportunity with Chris being safe to get a vet guy out here, to finally get one of these boys that have been working together. They had Fessy, Josh, and Corey are all very close. That's a very strong alliance with Bananas. Was this the perfect opportunity for them to say, well, let's just get rid of one of these boys that have been working together? That's the biggest alliance in the house.
I mean, it should have been for Chris. Like, does Desi want to get rid of the strong guys that might potentially help her in another episode or two with the finals? I don't know. Like, she's got Chris there, Survivor. She can't make, like, there's no, when you've got the other four, Bananas, Fessy, Corey, Josh, is there preferences there as to getting out of Bananas or a Fessy versus, Josh? Like, who do you want to run with? So it would have been up to Chris there to make that call and get out of Fessy, which Fessy assumed that he was going to be, or get out of Bananas. But Chris doesn't want to go down that path. I'm not sure why. But Desi, she's smart in playing it that way.
I guess on the flip side, I mean, it would have probably, I think at this stage, they don't know how many people are going to be in the final. We now know that 4 guys and 4 girls are going to run the final because TJ confirms it by the end of the episode that there will be, or I think they said there's going to be like a double elimination in the next on the challenge part. So that means that by the end, we're going to have 4 girls and 4 guys. Chris could have just had it all done and dusted here if they could have somehow managed to get a guy in there. Maybe he's guaranteed to be in the finals, right? Which would have been great for him. The counter argument here is that both Cassidy, he didn't name Cassidy, but maybe Michelle and Cassidy in his mind, he's like, well, it's not the biggest loss to me if one of them go home. They're not, in his mind, the strongest competitor to run a final with. So he could be thinking about it in that way as well. But for Bananas, obviously a great move not to want to go after the guys at this point because those are the guys that he's been working with. And we see Michelle and Michaela continue to get into a bit of a scrap here. Having a chat about Michelle's game. Michelle saying, I know I'm messy. Michaela saying that she's a liar and something about like, listen, I'm not the villain here. And Michaela's like, I'm not going to give you that credit. People love villains. You're not a villain. Who said you're a villain? I thought that was amazing by Michaela. She's like, I'm not even giving you that. You're just messy.
The whole thing with this argument, again, we're seeing the praises of Michaela, was that, like, I don't think Michelle was necessarily wrong. Like, she didn't necessarily have a bad point and was in the wrong in the argument, but Michaela just dunks on her as far as arguing skills go. So if arguments were like a skill, like when we're talking about physicality, strategy, social,
like
Michaela
if they were like if they were like an NFL fantasy player, then what would it be? You watch a bit more NFL than me. It'd probably be like her throwing skills is like at 100.
Whatever stat it is. Like Michelle just was getting outgunned in this like interaction. She's just not that good at putting her point across because maybe it is that anxiety or the messiness or whatever it is. But Michaela calmly sitting there throwing out just like picking her apart, like precision with the arguments. It was fun to see, actually. And Michelle's like, I know I melt down. And Michelle down was where Michaela came out with that phrase I never heard before. So like
that was
she
amazing.
just got so flustered. It was great.
Maybe a Michaela-Michelle kind of rivalry. Like I feel like Michelle's got so many rivalries now in the show, and this is where you got to ask yourself, like, if Michelle's the center point of all these rivalries that are forming, like, who's the problem? Who's the problem there? Because she seems to be like picking fights with so many different people in different seasons. Palava says Danica is ding about Michaela. She's in better group that complement her skill set, female beast mode like Tori. Sudani didn't like the online bullying that happened on the season that Ninja was on. I agree with that. Never cool, but some fans get pretty personal. Pete says, hey, remember when Amazing Race people were on the show? Not really. Can anyone remember? To be fair, they only had 2 Amazing Race people on the show. And one of them were playing for the vets. The other one was trying to play for himself. But, Dusty being such a big fan of Bananas, I don't think he was really playing for Team Amazing Race this season, Willie says Amazing Race only had 2 people. Yeah, exactly. Danica says, I think the next USA season will have 4 teams, the Amazing Race, Survivor, Big Brother, and the Challenge. I'm here for it. That would be fun to watch, especially now that Survivor has won the last season and is looking really good at this stage. I mean, there's how many girls from Survivor still left? 4 girls from Survivor still left at this point, and one that isn't.
4.
Yeah, so there's a very high likelihood that we can get at least one more Survivor winner. I can see the rivalry coming up. Arsena saying Desi wants to be a nice girl by nominating Michelle instead of Tori. Tori will beat her in the final. Yeah, I mean, Desi is saying like maybe she can beat me in the final, but I got to back myself at this stage. So yeah, it's a tough call. It's a tough call going, I guess, against. The other thing as well for Desi is she was never going to throw Chanel down there. She was never going to throw Michaela down there, right? So she needed Michelle or Cassidy to beat Tori if she threw her down there, and she just didn't believe that they could do it. I think that's why she didn't go that route, Kahuna.
Yeah, there's no, like, she sees the writing on the wall. There's no chance that Michelle or Cassidy take out Tori. So Tori comes back with another shot potentially to throw someone else in. Like, it's a risky business.
No, I think it's a great move because Desi is thinking about a long game. She comes back, Tori's back there. At least there's something she could point to say, hey, I could have thrown you and I didn't. You know, I felt bad about that one move. She's working on the long game, not just this game with Tori. It's worth risking your long game if you think Tori will go home, but I don't think Tori would have lost against either of those girls, especially when we know what the arena challenge was. I think it would have been in Tori's wheelhouse to do that as well. WC Tori only wins against Anissa and Nani. Arsena says Michaela was gaslighting Michelle. Michaela first wanted to get... Well, in fairness, Tori should have won the season that Casey won. That was weird at the end, how they did that with Casey coming in last, being able to choose who her partner was that season, when Tori was dominating most of that final. So, yeah. Dolores says, hi, I am late to the party this time. It was because I was watching the finale of Wheel of Time. Oh my God, what an ending, but I just digress. I'm kind of glad Michelle's out. Yeah, same here. Michelle didn't really play the best of the game at the end. We will be talking Wheel of Time after this podcast, Dolores, so hang around for that. It was a great finale, lots to talk about. Willie says, Michaela calling out Michelle reminds me when Laurel called Michelle out in the Ride or Dies reunion. Lena says, did Michaela tell Michelle to be blessed as she walked away? Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Be blessed. She was, be blessed. Just as she's leaving.
Michaela's a gangster, man. She does not care. She gives 0 Fs. W says, that's true, but she and Kyle did come super close behind Casey. Yep, that's what I was saying. Maybe Brandon will come to the challenge. Brandon. Yeah, no, that's not happening, right? Brandon from Survivor? I've already forgotten about him.
From the challenge.
The one who was struggling to walk on the beach.
He fell over on rocks.
Daddy says Desi is playing politics by not nominating Tori. Smart for the future gameplay. I agree, 100%. Dolores says I was rooting for Desi from the moment I heard she was going on. Speaking of Anissa, have you seen her lately? She lost a lot of weight. No, I'm glad for her. Really glad that she's been able to go on that journey. Gunnar, you've been through that path yourself. You're doing good as well.
Yeah, I hope Anissa can actually come back, because I don't know if people remember her OG seasons, like really early. She was, when she was young, she was very thin, like really thin. Like you look back and you go, oh, that's Anissa. It's weird. But if she can get to that point, and like we know that she's obviously very strong, and the problem has always been like the endurance, her knees, her ankles always rolling or something going on. If she can fix her wheels, maybe she's got a chance to, come back after all these years and do something good. That'd be great. I like Anissa.
Yeah, and
I love Anissa.
That's always. I've never been the biggest Anissa fan personally. There's been times where I've liked it, but then towards the end, I was like, you need to give it up because you're not trying to improve yourself, and you're complaining about not making a final. And I just don't like people complaining and not trying to do something about it. Like, and now if she's going in there and she's like putting in the effort, then I can back it. It's similar to how with Josh. There's a lot of stuff we don't like about Josh, but I respect the fact that he's going in there and he's putting in the work in the gym. He's doing something. If it's going to work, I don't know, but I respect the effort. You know what I mean? That to me is important. Like, you don't come in and complain about the game. Don't try to quit. Get a reward from being able to go back and play the game. So work on it. But this is probably the first time she's had enough time between seasons to actually work on it as well, because these seasons have just been filming back to back. And at one point she was constantly coming back. So there wasn't much downtime in between. But they can train at the house. A lot of people train at the house. So I don't know. Willie says, Anissa probably been working out, proving herself after Ride or Dies. Sudani says, Michaela is the female standout this season for me. She has a great moment in each episode. That's what we've been saying. True Kahuna, when we were younger, we were so much thinner and better, and then life hits us. Yeah, that happens. But the only difference is that you know, Dolores, you and Kahuna and myself, we're not on the challenge on international TV trying to win money, right? That's the difference. Like, know your limits. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, there's a lot of comments coming in. I will come back to it at some point, but we need to talk about the nominations. Chris finally gets his revenge here in this moment. He's able to put a vote on someone, and this is probably the more interesting one of the votes. He chooses to go after Josh, and Fessy can't believe his luck. He needs to gloat and tell us how amazing it is that he was not voted, and like how great, like I feel like he was trying to tell us how great his game is, that he can put this guy in 3 times, the guy's not coming for him. It's the most airtime Fessy's had the whole season almost, you know, gloating about the fact that Chris did not take the shot back because maybe he's scared of him, and that's why he didn't take the shot. But it does work to a certain degree because he's like, what do we do now if, you know, we win power next time? Do we not put Chris in? Like, you know, almost like he's trying to like hint towards bananas as a vote from Fessy in the future. Who knows? There could be a bananas vote coming into us in the next episode because it seems to work. It's kind of giving Fessy the green light maybe to try something different at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Fessy said it like 5 times as well, like he just kept repeating it. It obviously struck him. He thought he was going in. He definitely thought he was going to be nominated once Chris got that power. But I don't know. Like, I guess it could be the same as with Tori, right? Like, maybe Chris is making that same calculation that if Fessy goes down there against the Josh or whatever, then he's probably coming back and, you know, I've nominated him. Whereas if I put Josh in, maybe the house can nominate, or maybe the votes go whichever way, and the blood's not on my hands with Fessy specifically. But I don't know. Like, I think it would be hard to avoid that temptation of wanting to take that revenge shot, especially at someone like Fessy, who would be a difficult beat in the final.
I agree with you on that. It brings an interesting scene up with Josh getting very emotional when he's talking to the guys, you know, and they're like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm not, you know, I haven't done anything yet. I feel like I haven't earned it. And they're like, you have, mate. Like you play your own game. You're doing your own thing. You're good at it. And he's like, no, I need to get to the final. Like the final is like that thing that's getting away from him. And they put a lot of effort into, again, explaining Josh's background. It sounds like his dad was born in Cuba, came over. They didn't have much when they came over. So I guess he's the son of a first-generation immigrant from Cuba into America. He wants to give back to his family, really building up on that. Josh does show some maturity in the sense that he doesn't immediately lose his mind. He was the crazy guy on Big Brother. He doesn't go and hit the pots and pans and go at Chris. But even though he's a bit calmer on the exterior and a bit emotional at this point, he does still say something that, in my opinion, is very dumb. He's like, well, you know what? Even if I don't make it in on this one, I want to go in on the next one. I want to take Chris on. I want to be the one who takes him out of the game and prove myself. And I was like, is there a worse move for you right now, Josh, to go up against the guy that's just won 4 in a row? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what challenge can Josh beat Chris in? I don't know if that challenge exists.
Was he, like, I know they were at the house. I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was a party night, but was he drunk? Like, to be that emotional and crying and then turn it into, I want to go down and I'm going to beat him. Like, it just felt like one of those drunk rants you see people go on at a party, just like talking complete crap. I can do that. I can beat that person. I'm emotional now too. And it just went like the whole gamut of Joshness.
I want to throw it to Dolores here because Dolores, I believe if I remember correctly, you're Cuban because you're behind D this season in Survivor, who's Cuban as well. And you say, I can't believe I have something in common with Josh. I never did ever think I would say that out loud. Maybe you can talk a little bit or let us know in the comment section about just the passion and the emotions that come with being Cuban. Like, is this a common thing culturally for Cubans to be like this? Because obviously, culturally, we're learning from everybody in these different backgrounds here. And Josh has been like this his whole life. I'm wondering if that's just a part of it, because where was I don't know, Yam Yam was Puerto Rican, right? Or where was Yam Yam from in Survivor in the previous season? I forgot.
Yeah, I think PR. Yeah, I think Puerto Rican.
But yeah, but he also had like that really like emotional and like just full on experience life at 100%. Like I feel like it's a very yeah, it's almost like a similar type of thing. So it's really interesting. Like I like Josh. I'm gonna put it out there. Like he's I've softened up on Josh over the years.
I
Like
do not. I'm not a
yeah,
fan.
I've softened up on Josh a lot. Like he can be frustrating, but now he's like, you know, that cousin that's like part of the family. You get annoyed with him sometimes, but he's still family. He's been on the challenge for so long now. He's part of the furniture. And
what's Josh add though? Like, what does he bring to the challenge?
I personally think Josh, for me, I want to see Josh make a final. I want to see him. I don't think it's going to happen this season, because I think if he puts himself up against Chris next
final
episode,
five, and you still, that's funny.
I think
he's gone to the final five. You're like, he's still not making it.
But I respect the grind, man. Like I'm one of those people. I'm a sucker for the grind. Like if someone wants something really bad, they put a goal out there. I hate people who have got a goal, right? I hate a strong word, but I dislike it when people have got a goal and they don't put conscious effort towards reaching that goal. Josh is putting in the effort. Like we keep complaining, Corey needs to do more puzzles or Nelly needs to do some other things. They don't do it. Josh has put in the work. He's looking physically in phenomenal shape this season. If you ask me between Josh and Fessy, who'd you rather see make a final? I'd say Josh. I want to see Josh make a final. Do I think he can win?
Yeah.
No. But I'm invested in the journey. I'm invested in seeing if he can get there. And I like seeing people kick goals. So I just don't hate on people for the sake of hating on them. He can be a little bit full on sometimes, but I'm kind of used to it now.
I think with Josh I would love to see him make the finals because he hasn't. Like that first finals for him would be huge. I think he'd go crazy. It'd be funny to watch. But you're right. I don't think he's going to make it. I don't necessarily hate Josh either. I just look at him and go like, he's never going to win. Like even when I look at someone like Anissa, I've said that about Corey. Corey's never going to win, right? But I look at Corey, I look at Anissa, I look at Nani or Leroy, and I go like, they never won yet. Probably may never win with an Anissa or a Nani. But there are times where even though they got to the finals, like they look somewhat competent. Anissa with more of the like a hall brawl type thing. She's very strong. Nani kind of like a mid-ranger, nothing great, nothing like really hopeless either. Josh doesn't exude the same like I can potentially do this. I've never looked at him and go, there's a chance he'll win a final. Like, you know what I mean? I look at it and go, there's no chance ever that he'll ever win this game. As long as there's other people playing it, unless he plays an entirely solo game of just Josh, that's the only chance he'll have a winning. So I don't hate him, but I just look at him and go, it's a waste. He can't ever do anything beyond this.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
But the thing is, people come at me sometimes for wanting more athletic people and for this to be like a CrossFit's game. It's not the CrossFit, right? You're not going to just get the athletes coming. You need people that fit different archetypes. And he clearly fits the archetype like Pete here says, sloppy male emotional drama, and that is good for TV. He fits that archetype. Maybe sometimes I get annoyed with it as well, but clearly it's bringing some sort of drama. And also strategically, he does some things right. Like I'll point back to that move earlier in the season where he threatened to go into the arena and sort of strong-armed his team into making the move that he wanted to make when they won the daily. So things like that. There are certain points where he does bring a little bit of that in as well. It's interesting how the whole Cassidy and Josh showmance thing kind of flopped. It's
what
like
happened to that? Forgot about that completely.
Cassidy, somewhere down the line, she was like, I need to back out of this. It's not
She's
going
like,
to
oh my gosh, that was Josh. She realized she woke up like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah. Let me read a couple of comments.
I do think taking Wes out from Josh unintentionally, I don't think he was calculating and doing all the maths in his head, but I think unintentionally it was a smart move in that we talk about the revenge that you're playing long term in this game. People come back into the house. People come back season after season. If there was ever a season to take a shot on Wes when he's going, I'm never coming back, guys. This is my last season. Like that was it. But I don't think that was in the calculations of what Josh was doing. But it was unintentionally kind of smart. So I'll give him that, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, Marcus, he says, I actually respect Joss for wanting to take on Chris head on. As bad of a mistake as it could be, it would also be quite epic if he succeeds, wants to earn his pinstripes, which I can respect. And also, I guess Marcus, he knows he's getting the callback. So even if he loses, he's getting the callback. It's not a lose-lose for him. This won't be the last time we see him on our screens. Palava Girl says Josh has always been emotional, but he's evolving. Even if he doesn't win, he's gonna grow, and that's it, Palava. I am in on the growth. I love seeing people grow, and that's why I'm okay with seeing him still on the show. Dolores is saying I was a young girl and I remember very little, but I always saw the struggle. Also, Cuban children have it in them. Their responsibility is to take care of their parents. So obviously, he's getting emotional thinking about what he could do for his parents. Yes, he won the $500,000 on Big Brother a couple of years ago. But I'm sure, life's expensive right now. $500,000 is not what it used to be, right? So I can understand that. Danica also says the Cuban culture in South Florida is amazing. We've started to get more people coming up here, and the food is awesome. But I remember the Cubans all coming over. They were fleeing Castro, right? I definitely noticed the Cuban culture when I was traveling in South Florida earlier this year as well. I was able to get a couple of Cuban cigars while I was there and took it back to South Africa as well, which was cool because you don't really get them in South Africa. Lena says season 39 would have been perfect for Josh. I agree. It's a shame he's not in it, but again, it would have spoiled probably if he would win the season or not. According to Kuna, there would have been no chance. It would have been no spoiler if he was on the next season. Willie says Josh brings tantrums. He brings fights and brings fun. W says we don't need the goofy layups in the final. A lot of different opinions here. Dolores says my parents encouraged us to educate, and we always knew we had to take care of them. I took care of my mom right down till the day that she passed away, and my father. And a lot of people just don't have that. Like our Western culture, sometimes people forget about their parents, and it's sad to see. So great on Josh for wanting to put his parents in a better place as well, and financially look after them, I guess, at this stage, which it's something that's lost sometimes on the Western culture. Arsena says Josh is like the annoying little brother that wants to hang around with his big brothers. I agree. Pete says Josh brings sloppy Mel. I've seen that one. Michelle's a dum-dum. Welcome, Andre Lee. Willie says if I have to choose between Casey or Josh on who I would like to watch more of, I would say Josh. I do agree. I know Kahuna would not agree with that. Casey's better as a competitor, but Josh, I think, is better as an entertainer. And also the ceiling is much higher for where Josh can still grow towards compared to what Casey's already achieved. If that makes sense. I don't know how much more we can see from her. Lena saying Josh is a great swimmer. If the finals have more water competitions, he could win more. W says Corey can win if he had a partner that took full control. Ashley West, Bananas, etc. That's true. I agree. Definitely a team format would definitely help as well. Could also help Josh to potentially win because he definitely has certain strengths that he could bring to a team. So I think saying that there's no chance they would win is not necessary there. Go Michaela and go Chris. So hopefully bye Tori, Josh or Fessy next week. A lot of great things coming in here. Pete says his growth is everything. West going from steroid rage machine to dad. This is why I watch. I agree. I love the growth stuff. So that's why I'm sort of into it. Even if Josh was on 39, is he beating Horacio? I don't think so. Yeah, I think that would have been very tough. There's some great competitors on 39, which we haven't even had the opportunity to talk about yet. But let's get into the actual arena, I guess, here at the end of the day. One funny moment I did want to talk about just beforehand was, again, Bananas just being Bananas with the banana, saying we'll have to blur this, cannibalism, and then throwing the banana down in front of the voting booth, and Chanel playing into it and like pretending like she's slipping, I thought was really cute and funny to see. Like I can understand why Chanel's kind of like annoyed she's not getting more screen time because she seems to have like a really good personality. She's playing into things. And then Michaela comes second and she's like, oh, disgusting. And she's got like none of that playfulness. It's nasty. She's like, screw this. So seeing like the difference between them.
I really like that Banana says, yeah, it's probably going to be blurred. It's cannibalism. And then the next shot, they blur it with his own face. Like, that's good editing. Like,
love it. Love it. It's amazing. Just such a nothing moment that ends up being fun on the show. But we end up getting the votes coming in. Chanel gets 1 vote. Corey gets 1 vote. Cassidy gets a whopping 7 votes. She's a crowd favorite, according to TJ. Cassidy's pissed, man. And who can blame her, Kahuna? Like, she's going in for her 3rd time this season. People keep underestimating her, keep saying she's a weak link. And, you know, I was a bit harsh on Cassidy at few points earlier in the season as well. But she's earning her stripes just like Chris, man. She's showing people she's got what it takes. She even talks about being a beast in her original season, winning 3 individual immunities, being the person who won the most, the girl who won the most. And like Chris said, she's got that fight in her. She's got that beast mode in her and turns it on when she needs to in this arena as well.
Yeah, like it must be so hard because for someone like the mix of emotions of this sucks, I'm not going down again. But I also look at it and go, like, when you're this far in, what other option? Like, she had to know that she was probably going to get all the votes. When the other women are Desi, Michaela, Chanel, Michelle's already gone in. Like, where are the votes going to go? Like, maybe she could make the argument that you're picking Tori over me when I'm Survivor, and Tori's not. But we've seen why that calculation goes in, why they're not picking on Tori, because Tori is going to come back. We talked about it this very episode. So I don't necessarily get why she's that pissed off at the thought process as at the actual choice, but I can see why she would be pissed off because of the emotions of 3 times down. Chanel still hasn't gone in. I'm Survivor, all that sort of thing. So I get it, but like, there's not many choices. People are gonna have to go down, and some alliances are stronger than others. You know.
Yeah, Dolores says Cassidy, in my eyes, has impressed me. I did not think she would, but glad to see it. Willie says Cassidy has proven herself to be a good competitor and went to eliminations, and not Corey, who hide behind the numbers. Shot fired at Corey here. You've got a supporter, Kuna.
Yeah,
A supporter for the Corey shots
next week.
Yeah, I think Cassidy handled this pretty well. I mean, she was annoyed and pissed at us, the audience, but she didn't really go off at them in the arena. She's just like, whatever, I'm just going to go in there and do it. But an interesting, I guess, arena here with the basically 2 like wheels that they have to turn against each other. And what I liked about it, it's not just moving it horizontally, is also moving it backwards and forwards at the same time. So there's a lot of strategy behind this, but it came down to shoulder strength, grip strength, arm strength, core strength, as a whole. And as soon as I saw that it was going to be like that, I knew Michelle was going to lose this because, again, it comes down to, like I said, in my mind, I was like, Michelle would do good at puzzles, but Cassidy's also very solid at puzzles from her time on Survivor. So that would have been very equal. They're both about the same weight class, the same height. Cassidy's got a lot more of that scrappiness when it comes to and also she's proven Michelle was never really good at individual immunities in Survivor. She won the one that mattered the most in the seasons that she played because it was towards the end. But again, I think that, looking at this, I just knew it was going to come down to endurance. And I always have this vision of Michelle being out partying, drinking cocktails, having a good time. I never see the gym selfies, where I just thought endurance is where it's going to be. And it was a blowout at the end. Cassidy kind of humiliated her here with 6-1.
Yeah, this challenge was an interesting one. I really appreciated the innovation. Like, we always talk about how the challenge is pushing and doing different things that we've never seen before. And this one was very unique. Like, kind of cool, the fact that you've got fire and fireworks, but the mechanism of push against you is really fascinating. I think it was a bit muddied as far as a visual TV component goes to really track. Like, I talk about a thing called legibility, like how easily discernible is what's going on screen. How, like, can you keep track of who's in charge, who's leading, who's in front, who's really kind of pushing it? And I don't think it had that down completely. It was a little bit hard to watch and really see the struggle. It's one of those things that's probably looks easier than it really is. So I didn't necessarily like that, but it was a fascinating challenge because it, like you said, it involves so much strategy, endurance, strength. You're really pushing against someone while trying to pull against them and really just dictate where you want them to go based on pure strength and endurance. So it's a great one. But you're right. Once Michelle stepped into an arena that had all of those components in one, she was outgunned completely. Like, she's coming to a gunfight with a knife,
I liked it. I thought, like, again, me, I'm a sucker for the innovation and the fact that they're constantly bringing new challenges. My eyes love seeing, like, new challenges, and they're constantly doing that on the challenge. So I enjoyed it as a whole. It definitely helped with the fact that every time that they lit one of them, it would be like a little bit of an explosion to say, okay, they've got a score here, which visually was quite appealing. And like I said, Michelle loses here, but TJ says, we're hoping we'll see you again, because clearly Michelle is now one of the mainstays. I think Michelle's taking the Nani spot. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that's what they're looking at, because again, her making up with Cassidy, her being playful, she kind of fits into the messy type of archetype on the show now that they're probably looking for long term. Who can we have on the show? And I think that with Nani and Casey getting married hopefully soon, I believe they're engaged now, and maybe thinking about a life outside of the challenge. Like, I don't know how often we're going to see them on the show. I do think they'll come back, but I don't know if it's going to be like a consistent thing. So they're probably looking at that next competitors that can fall into certain slots, certain archetypes on the show. And Michelle definitely has earned her stripes there. Cassidy, like some people in the live said, she probably does need to work a little bit still on her social and strategy skills. But I do think that winning 3 eliminations in a row is going to earn her some respect coming into a future season, where maybe it'll make it a little bit easier for her to get some numbers on her side. W says, I'll bet you 500,000 of Hunter's money that Michelle will continue making dumb decisions on 39 and piss off Nerus, Melissa, and Berna. Yeah, like if I had to bet with someone's money, it'd be Hunter's money as well.
He doesn't have any.
Got any. Pete says, Cassidy has won me over so long as she keeps her head up. Cassidy reminds me of Camilla and Cutthroat, small but mighty. Right? Hopefully she doesn't become as toxic as Camilla, but just Camilla on the competitor side. I don't think she will. I think Cassidy's a nice girl, actually. Palavu said, Danica, that's true. Chris and Cassidy, big mistake, because both have proven themselves they are challenge worthy, in my opinion. Cassidy needs to improve her social game and strategy if she wants to do well in the future. Season, good competitor, though. Yep. I think Cassidy is just easy for them to send in, same as Chris. Once your name has been said, they just keep sending you down. Now, I've got a very important question for you here, Kun, as we're sort of heading towards the end. We haven't seen the whole brawl yet, which is kind of weird. Like, I feel like we need a whole brawl every season. I love the whole brawl. Do you reckon that they bring it in? Or do you think because the USA competitors are not used to the challenge, and a few of them were afraid of even like a whole brawl in the beginning of the season, they're going to take it easy on them? Well, because I feel like
I'm a little bit spoiled, only because not for the season, but like on this episode when they showed the preview for next week, like we're getting a whole brawl.
All right, we're getting it.
Yeah, a modified one.
Right.
It's a haul, and there's a brawl, but they're holding pads, so it's not just skin on skin. They've got the tackling pad out in front of them. So yeah, it's coming next week. Like they're definitely holding it for the tail end, and the fact that it's going to be a double elimination as well is going to be interesting.
Who's your money on? Do you think? I don't know. Were you spoiled in the sense that you could see who was in the whole brawl? Like, I don't want to go to that point, because they said it's going to be the most shocking blind side of the season coming up.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, I saw it, and I suppose if I did like the angel cake thing and paused it and broke down the trailer, I could probably work out who it was. But it was just the split second. I saw a whole brawl from the top, so there was definitely happening. I just don't know who was in it, but yeah, I mean, I'm assuming
my money is on maybe like a Fessy versus Josh whole brawl. Fessy sends another one of his mates home, and Josh.
I mean, that'd be amazing. I'd love to see that happen. But I think if Chris doesn't win, Chris is going in. Like, so, like, hopefully maybe Chris can win and put a Fessy in. That'd be awesome. But
it's maybe one of the few cases where you could say there's a chance that people could take Chris on here, because he's a big guy, but for some other reason, I feel like Fessy, Corey, well, I guess Bananas is probably someone he could take at this point, because I feel like Bananas is not where he used to be.
Well, he said it in this episode. He goes, Bananas is old. He's not worried about him in the finals at
disrespect.
all. Like, like full on. He forgot. But yeah, I think in a whole brawl, Fessy would be the only one that I'd be worried about for Chris. Even Josh. I think even Josh would be, even though with his size and stuff, I think Chris is a big dude.
But Corey beat Fessy. Corey beat Fessy in a physical altercation. Apparently, people are saying that means Corey is stronger than Fessy. He'll run circles around Fessy in a whole brawl.
Yeah, there's no way Corey would beat Fessy in a whole brawl. I mean, in the challenge it was great that he beat him, but wrestling in that with oil in an open space, and you just have to get a foot out, is very different to what he would have to do to him in a whole brawl.
Yeah. Danica says, do you think Fessy would take one for the team? No. Fessy's all about Fessy. Fessy does not know how to take one for the team. So I just don't see it happening. Like, Josh will have to earn it if they do go up against each other. Danica says, it wasn't the previous, but I don't know if it's a double. It is a double. It's definitely a double. TJ said that. I heard that part. I just didn't notice the whole brawl. I think my attention was already like, I need to watch Wheel of Time next so I can take notes for that one before tomorrow morning. So I already started like switching off. But
I mean, it was literally like a flash. It was just like,
so I must have like looked away or something at that point. But yeah, that's really it here for this live. And for everybody that got to this point, please consider subscribing. Please hit the like, the notification bell, put your comments on the video below. Let us know your thoughts about this latest episode of the challenge. We're getting close to the end now. I believe next week will be the finale and they'll have the elimination in one. Maybe we'll get another episode. Maybe like
I think it's two more.
Two more episodes. All right.
Yeah, they said there's one more episode before the finale. So
right. So that will take us. Well, I guess that'll take us right up until challenge 39. That will go straight after this one. So it'll be no break. It'll just be straight into challenge 39. Sudani says, who do you both think is likely to not make the final? If I had to make a guess right now, I'd say Josh won't make it. And Chanel.
Cassidy.
I'm going to say Chanel because Chanel hasn't been out there and done anything yet. So I'm gonna back my girl Cassidy because Cassidy's been good in the eliminations. And yeah, like so you're Cassidy and Josh.
Cassidy and Josh, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go Chanel and Josh. I like Chanel, but she hasn't done anything for me yet. So unless it's a hall brawl, because if Chanel runs up against Cassidy in a hall brawl, it's game over. It's absolutely game over. Like, I just don't think Cassidy can beat her in that. But for now, that is it, everyone. Thank you for being so active here in the live. We've got the Wheel of Time coverage happening in about 45 minutes from now. So if you are also a fan of Wheel of Time, we even had Lena earlier saying that Kahuna should get onto it. She doesn't know why he hasn't watched it yet. So yeah, make sure that you check that out.
There's so much to watch.
I know that it is a problem. I still haven't watched The Amazing Race Australia, and Kahuna will be back later on tonight.
10 hours from now.
10 hours from now, Kahuna will be back with 3 special guests, or 3 co-hosts, I should say, on the channel to talk about The Amazing Race Australia premiere week. And I know nothing about it, but I've heard that it's a good start to the season, Kahuna.
It's great season. Like Celebrity Edition, like lots of fun, lots of really big characters. And they started out in India, which is one of the hardest countries to race through. So it's been good so far.
All right, we'll catch you guys. What time? 6 a.m. Yeah, I think it's probably not going to be the best, Danica. But if you jump on the YouTube channel,
might even be 5 a.m. I think. I'm not sure.
If you jump on the channel, it should be upcoming live. It should show upcoming live for this evening for us, the morning for you, Danica. But thank you for jumping in as many of these as you can, Danica. We appreciate it. We'll catch you guys next week. See you later. Bye.